This right here is one of the most powerful buttons in DaVinci Resolve, and you've probably never clicked it. I'm going to show you why the index panel is super underrated, and how using it, plus a little bit of preparation, will let you find anything on your timeline in seconds. This video is brought to you by Audiio, more on them a little bit later. The index is split into 3 sections: edit index, tracks, and markers. We're going to do a deep dive into each part, and look at some examples of how you can use them to speed up your workflow. Now we're going to start with the edit index. This lists every clip and transition in your timeline. If you move the playhead on your timeline, the edit index highlights the clip you're currently over. If you change your edit, this list updates automatically. If you select an item in your list, your playhead will automatically jump to that part of the edit. You can see a ton of information for every single clip, so let's quickly run through what all of these columns mean, and then we'll look at customizing them and then some other filters that we can use. First, we've got the number sign or hash or the pound sign, depending on where you are in the world. This is the event number. Something I only really noticed when I was planning this video is that if a clip has a speed change applied to it, M2 appears in this column, and the duration column shows the new frame rate of that clip. It does seem to be rounding up though, because in these examples, I've got shots that were 23.976 frames per second that I sped up to 200%. The actual event for that clip shows the exact frame rate, while this M2 event has a round number. There must be some quirk in the coding. If your clip has been assigned a reel in its metadata, it will show up here. The match column is a specialized tool that's mostly used for VFX workflows and conform checks. It tells you whether a clip in the timeline matches its source metadata in a specific way. Most of the time, it will probably be blank. However, when it is active, it's usually going to display a status like match or no match. It really only becomes critical when you're doing something like a reconform, where Resolve needs to verify that the clip on the track is an exact metadata match for the clip in your media pool. Honestly, I don't think I've ever actually used it, but now you know. The V column confirms if this is a video event by showing a V, or an audio event by showing an A, and there will be a number next to that letter that tells you what track it's on. Next, you'll see what type of edit is there. It will say C for a cut, or D for a dissolve or transition. If there is a transition, then the next column will show you how long it lasts, shown in frames. Next up, you have source in and source out. That's going to tell you the specific starting and ending timecode from the original file. The record duration is exactly how long that clip is on your timeline. The record in and out timecodes tell you where exactly on the timeline that clip starts and ends. Name, as you can probably guess, shows you the name of the clip. Comments is supposed to show any notes that come from the original file that you imported, but I'll be honest, this column doesn't always seem to populate for me. There are a couple of others that give me that issue, and I'll point those out as well. The source start and end tells you the very first and last frame available in the original footage. The source duration is the total length of the original file. The codec, source frames per second, and the resolution columns should all be pretty self-explanatory. Color is supposed to tell you the color of any flags or markers you added to the clip. Notes should show you any text you wrote inside those markers, and the keyword should show you any keywords attached to those markers. But these don't always seem to show me that information either. Now, I wish I knew why, but I guess it is a bug of some kind. But that said, these are all things I use the marker section for anyway, so stay tuned for that. There's also a column for the EDL clip name, which tells you the name of the imported EDL list if you used one. It's super easy to customize the look of these columns. If you right-click any column header, you can check or uncheck the ones you want to see. You can click and drag a column header to the left or right to reorder them. You can drag the line between 2 headers to make a column wider or thinner. And once you have it looking the way you want, right-click a header, choose Create Column Layout, and give it a name so you can save it for later. Once it's saved, you can right-click on a header and choose it from the menu by selecting the name and hitting Load. That's also where you can update or delete a layout you've already made. If you want to search for something specific on your timeline, you can use the search bar here at the top, and you can even limit which column you want to search. So if you've got a particular shot you know you used and you want to find it, just start typing in the name and you can jump straight there. If you have a ton of clips on your timeline, you can filter the index to only show specific items. All the filters live under this 3-dot menu. As the name suggests, Show All will show everything on the timeline. Show Active Track Items only shows clips on the tracks you selected with the destination controls. Show Video or Audio focuses the list on only video clips or on audio clips. These next 3 limit the list to clips with specific flags or markers, and you can even filter those 2 by color, or you can limit to clips that you've labeled with specific clip colors. Show Through Edits shows cuts where the video is actually continuous. That's the kind of edit you can see on the timeline, where the cut point looks more like a dashed line than just a straight cut. Show Offline Clips finds clips that are missing their original file so you can fix them. Show Clip Conflicts is supposed to show only the clips with overlapping or confusing data. Now, I'll be honest, I've never actually seen what this looks like in real life because I've never had to deal with a clip that had that issue. You can filter for clips with speed effects, composite effects like opacity, transform effects like moving or zooming, and clips with filters for Resolve effects or other OFX. Then you can show what I guess you'd call special clips, as in stills, freeze frames, compound clips, nested clips, or VFX Connect clips, which are basically timeline containers that let you round-trip one or more clips from DaVinci Resolve to the standalone Fusion program for more advanced compositing work. It's this combination of customized column layouts and filtering that makes this super powerful. See, one example where I use it is when I have to make a music cue sheet for our clients. See, when we've licensed music for a video, that client's going to want to know what tracks were used, when they appear, and for how long. If I assign the music a clip color like chocolate, I can filter the index to just show the chocolate clips. And I can modify the column layout to show the clip name, the record duration, and the in and out points. Then in the three-dot menu, I can export what I see in the index as a CSV file or a text file. Then you'll have all the information you need, which you can pair with the music license to show your client. And if you're on the lookout for music for your next project, then now would be a really good time to check out the sponsor of this video, Audiio. If you sign up for a pro plan, you'll get unlimited access to thousands of high-quality curated songs from artists and composers, and they're adding new songs to that catalog every week. You can download individual instrument stems for every song, which lets you build a fully customized track. They even have more than 300,000 sound effects to choose from. Audiio Pro gets you a single license that covers you for practically everything: YouTube monetization, social media, podcasts, weddings, and even commercial work for clients under 100 employees. Also, any track you download during your subscription is licensed to that project forever, even if you cancel your plan later. There are even super powerful AI tools to help you find the perfect track. You can use Hans AI search and just describe what you need in natural language, and Hans will do the searching for you. They also have something called Link Match. If you have a particular song you want to use but you don't have permission, paste a link to it from Spotify or YouTube, and the tool finds similar tracks within the Audiio library. Audiio have been kind enough to hook me up with a big discount for all of you, so just head to audio.com/ThomLyons and enter the coupon code ThomLyons for 70% off your first year of Audiio Pro, which includes unlimited music, sound effects, stems, and AI search tools. And thanks again to Audiio for sponsoring this video. Now back to the index. We're going to talk about the marker section here in a little bit, which is probably the part that I use the most. But first, we'll go through the Tracks tab. This lets you manage the video and audio layers of your timeline in one place. Now we're going to quickly run through all of the different columns, and some of these you are going to recognize from the left-hand side of your timeline, but some of them behave a little bit differently. First, you'll see a little sliver of color, which will match the track color. You can right-click on a track to change it. But remember, if you've assigned a color directly to a clip, either onto the section that you've got on the timeline, or to the whole clip in the media pool, that's going to override any color you select for the track. Then we've got the number sign or the hash or the pound sign, which shows you the order of the tracks. And you can drag these numbers up or down to rearrange them, which is something you can't do on the timeline. The name column is where you can give your track a label. I use something like DX for dialogue, SFX for sound effects, and MX for music. Especially if I'm in the Fairlight page and I'm trying to send outputs of tracks to different buses, it can be nice to have a label on that track to help me keep things straight. Then you have the track controls. You can lock and unlock a track, enable and disable video, or solo and mute audio. Now these are the same controls that you see in the timeline, and they work in the same way. You can individually click on the controls, or if you have several next to each other that you want to turn on or off, you can click and drag to change them all at once. Next you have Format, which is just for audio tracks. This will show you the type of track you've got set up, like mono, stereo, one of the surround sound options. If you right-click here, you can change it, but unlike doing it on the timeline, here you can select multiple tracks at once and change all of them simultaneously. If you've assigned a category to one of these tracks, you'll see it here. Another audio-only feature is the monitor column. If you want to be able to toggle between individual tracks while you play back, you can tick them here, and then under the timeline viewer, you'll see a little drop-down menu appear. Then you can easily switch between your main output bus and whichever individual tracks you picked to hear things in isolation. Next, we have ADC, which stands for Automatic Delay Compensation. Whenever you add an effect to an audio track, like a noise reduction plugin or a reverb, it takes your computer a fraction of a millisecond, and sometimes way longer, to calculate and process that effect. That processing time is called latency. So if you have a dialogue track loaded up with heavy plugins and then a music track that's got none, the dialogue track is going to take slightly longer to reach that master output bus. If it's left uncorrected, your dialogue is going to fall out of sync. So ADC constantly scans every track to calculate exactly how much latency is being caused by your plugins and your effects. And then it finds the slowest track, so the one that's got the heaviest processing chain. And then it artificially delays all of the other much faster tracks by the exact mathematical difference. so that every single piece of audio hits the master output bus at the exact same millisecond. Now, by default, ADC is checked on for all tracks, and 99% of the time, you should just leave it alone. But Resolve gives you the option to bypass it on a track-by-track basis for a few very specific reasons. You see, some plugins are just kind of written with crappy code, and they report the wrong latency number to Resolve. So if you're starting to get weird sync issues, try unchecking the ADC box for that track, and it will tell Resolve to ignore that plugin's latency report. Also, if you're recording something like a voiceover, but directly into Fairlight, and your project's got a lot of heavy plugins on other tracks that are going to start to cause latency, ADC will delay the track that you're recording on to try and match them. And that means that the person trying to record their voice will hear this annoying echo of their own voice in their headphones. So unchecking ADC on the record track should help fix that. Next up, we have VCA, which stands for Voltage Controlled Amplifier Track. This is basically a volume control that allows you to simultaneously adjust the levels of multiple tracks using a single fader. Now, you need to be in Fairlight to set this up. Here in the middle of the mixer, you see the VCA section. If I take a couple of these tracks and assign them to VCA1, when I drag out the mixer to reveal all the tracks and buses, here at the end, you'll see that VCA track has appeared. If I turn that fader up and down, the faders of the tracks that I assign to it will go up and down with it. In the index, you'll see which tracks have been assigned to which VCA, but you can't change it from there. You have to go back to the mixer for that. Finally, you've got the tags column, which you use to show any tags assigned to the track. As far as I know, this is something you use when you're working with immersive audio formats like Dolby Atmos or MPEG-H. Now, that's not something I ever do because I'm not an audio engineer, so I'm not going to pretend to know an awful lot about that. With that said, if you are finding this video helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you can hit that like button down below. It really does help it get found by other people, and it would mean the world to me as well. All right, just a couple more things before we move on to the marker section. I already mentioned you can rename and reorder tracks from here. You can also delete a whole track by right-clicking on it. If you have a ton of tracks, you can filter what you see in the panel by pressing the three-dot menu and enabling or disabling the track types. But there's one more special feature that seems to be reserved for the Fairlight page. If you have a ton of audio tracks, but you want to concentrate on just a few of them, over on the left of the panel, you'll see a bunch of little eyes. If you click on them, the track will disappear from your timeline, but you'll still be able to hear it. Now, while I'm thinking of it, I'm going to be at NAB for a couple of days in April, and there are going to be a ton of Blackmagic people working there. So if you've got some questions that you want me to ask them, just let me know in the comments down below. If it's something that I don't know the answer to, I will try my best to bug all the folks working there, and I'll try and get you an answer. Now we have the marker section. This is the easiest way to see and organize every single note you've made on a project. Now, if you've not used them before, a marker is an organizational tool that you can use to identify or call attention to a specific frame or a range of time within an individual clip or the timeline. Now, we'll do a quick walkthrough of how they work before we look at the panel itself. You create them by hitting the M key on your keyboard. If you have a clip selected, you add it to the clip. If you've got nothing selected, it's going to add it to the timeline where your playhead's resting. Then to open up the marker so you can add information to it, you can either double-click it, or for timeline markers, if your playhead is parked on the same frame you've marked, you can just hit the M key again on your keyboard. Here you can give it a name, add notes and keywords, and pick a different color. If you want to change the frame where it shows up, you can either change the timecode right here, or you can grab it and drag it to the new spot. If you want to turn it into a duration marker, you can either change the duration right here, or you can hold Option or Alt on your keyboard and grab the side of the marker and drag it to be as long as you need it. Now, it's important to remember that Resolve is only as smart as you are. So if you don't add information to your markers, then this index isn't going to be a ton of help. So the key to getting the most out of it is making sure that you've got the discipline to label and organize while you work. You don't want to spend your creative energy trying to track down that one awesome shot that you swear you saw a few minutes ago. By properly tagging your markers with names and with keywords and with notes, you're essentially indexing your thoughts so that Resolve can do all the heavy lifting later. If you take 5 seconds to name a marker right now, you save 5 minutes of searching later down the line when the client is breathing down your neck. In the marker panel, there's a thumbnail view and a list view, and that's the powerful one. By default, you'll see all the markers in the order they show up on your timeline. If you click on a column header, you can sort your markers by that column alphabetically or by time. For each marker, you'll see a thumbnail showing the frame that the marker's on, the name you gave it, the start and end time codes, which will be the same unless you made it a duration marker, the color, and any keywords and notes you added. If you right-click on a column header, you can pick which ones are visible if you want to simplify the panel a bit. And in the three-dot menu, you can filter it to show all markers or just a particular color. If you click on a marker, it will take you to that part of the timeline. If you double-click on the name, keyword, or note section of a marker, you can add or change the information there. For some reason, you can't change the color, and I don't know why. If you click on the little magnifying glass button, you can search all your markers, and that's what makes this so powerful. I'll often use a technique known as pancake editing. I'm not sure who the first person to use this was, and I'm sure there are other names for it, but I learned about it back in 2013 from a guy named Vashi Nedemansky. The idea is you have your selects on one timeline, and directly beneath, you've got the timeline of your edit. So if you take the time to make an organized timeline of B-roll with markers to let you know where everything is, using this pancake editing method in combination with the marker index makes finding the right shot a breeze. Thanks again to Audiio for sponsoring this video. If you found all of this useful, please take a second to hit the subscribe button down below so you don't miss out on more Resolve tips and tricks like these. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.